All right, I have the time is 12 noon sharp, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. Welcome the SpecialQuest Birth Through 5 Approach and Materials Pre-Inclusion Conference webinar. So most of you, this is a prerequisite for attending the Early Childhood Inclusion Institute that's going to happen October 18th through the 20th in Denver. And we would just be delighted to give you a little bit of an introduction to the SpecialQuest approach and materials before you come in to the Institute so that you won't be called on the day of the SpecialQuest approach and presentation. My name is Holly Wilter, and I would love to welcome you all today. I see that we've got 24 on the web and 19 on the audio, so and some people are sharing the phone line, so we appreciate you doing that as well. So before we begin, we just want to make sure that you are familiar with the layout of this webinar today. Our communication is going to be two-way. So you're going to have to put down the bite of your sandwich and finish chewing, because we're going to ask you to unmute your phone line at certain times and talk to us and give us some feedback. And you can also always share via the chat feature. But there will be two ways that we want you to communicate today. One of them is via the chat feature, which you'll find on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, and the other is via phone. And we're going to give you directions on how to participate that way as well. So some of you might be new to the ReadyTalk format. Just want to give you an orientation to the ReadyTalk format. We want to familiarize you with this meeting management system. You've probably used GoToMeeting or DimDim, or maybe you've used ReadyTalk before. But as I said before, you'll be communicating during the webinar using the chat feature, which is on the lower left-hand side of your screen. You'll be able to send your messages to the chairpeople of the meeting, rather. Just a little FYI, you're going to submit your chat. However, your participants aren't going to be able to see what you submit, and you're not going to be able to see what your participants will submit. So my co-presenter and I are going to do the best job possible to be able to share your comments and thoughts and sharing via our phone and via the chat to all of the participants. During other times of the webinar, we're going to prompt you to unmute your phone. As I said earlier, all of the lines are muted now, but we're going to prompt you at times during the webinar to give some feedback via the phone. To do that, we are going to ask you to press *7 to unmute your phone line, and we're also going to ask you to press *6 when you're done talking, so that you can feel free to eat your sandwiches or talk to your coworkers or type on your computer, and everyone will benefit from a good experience of not having to hear your background noise. So we'll prompt you with those directions again at that time. To chat, you want to type inside the blue box and then press enter or submit. So, or actually it's send on ReadyTalk. And then you'll see your message sent into the chat feature, and the chairperson will try to respond to you promptly if you have a specific question, or at least recognize your comment. So at this time, I am delighted to introduce my co-presenter and partner in wonderful inclusion endeavors, Miss Laura Merrill. And I am just so delighted to have Laura co-present with me today. It's such a privilege. Laura has been in the field of early intervention for 18 years. She's worked as a family advocate, a service coordinator for families of children with special needs, and as the executive director of a local early intervention initiative. Currently, she's the Training and Personnel Development Coordinator for Early Intervention Colorado. The most important knowledge that she brings to her work is enhancing systems of service delivery and support for families and children. And she's gained through her experience as a parent of a child with a disability. while striving to assure that he is an active, involved, and integral member of his school and community. And Laura's going to tell us a little story about her family later on in the webinar, and I'm excited for her to share that with you. So you can't see who's on the call, but we wanted to make sure that you knew who your fellow participants were. Unfortunately, this meeting management system does not allow us at this time to see who our participants are, but you should find your name on this word cloud of webinar participants. So if the names that you see that are larger, that means we have a couple of those names. So we have a couple Lori's and a couple Barbaras and a couple Pamalas, or it means that you registered twice. Oh, whoops, I'm supposed to tell you a little bit about myself too. So here's a little bit about me. My name is Holly Wilcher. I'm your other co-presenter. I am delighted to work at the Colorado Office of Professional Development, where my primary role is supporting a comprehensive personnel development system for early intervention in Colorado. And I've been delighted to be the SpecialQuest liaison for the last 3 years and to share the SpecialQuest approach materials with anyone and everyone who's interested in Colorado. So sorry I didn't mention myself earlier. Thank you for the prompt, Laura. But anyway, you can see these webinar participants, or you should see yourself in here if you registered as of 10 a.m. this morning. So I see myself, and I hope you see yourself. If you registered twice, you'll see your name larger, or if there's more Barbaras and Pamalas and Amandas, Lisas, Lori's, Nancy's, and Danas, then you'll see yourself larger. But a Wordle works like this. You put all your words in, and the words that come out the most often are the words that are larger on your word cloud. So that's why you're seeing some of the names larger. And Wordle is free, by the way. You can go to Wordle, just Google Wordle. All right, so you're going to hold us accountable, and we're going to hold you accountable throughout this webinar today. So as a result of participating in this webinar, we want you to be able to do just a few things. And we think that you'll feel good about doing these at the very end. You're going to explore the SpecialQuest approach to early childhood inclusion. You're going to be able to identify data on the efficacy of the SpecialQuest approach and materials. You're going to be able to navigate the early childhood inclusion resources within the SpecialQuest Birth Through 5 website. You're going to explore the free SpecialQuest Multimedia Training Library. And you're finally going to identify SpecialQuest materials and approach that will support your early childhood inclusion efforts back home. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Laura, and Laura's just going to set the stage and do a little icebreaker with you and ask you questions about inclusion. Laura?
Hi, everyone. So this webinar is all about inclusion. So I thought it would be great if we could take just a minute at the very beginning of the webinar to talk about inclusion and what it means to us personally. You know, the concept of early childhood inclusion has been around for a long time, and it kind of gets both positive and negative attention. So we want to take a minute to learn from you what the concept of inclusion means to you personally. You might have even gotten some more ideas about inclusion from the homework that you looked at in some of those great videos that you watched prior to your participation in the webinar. So I'm going to tell you a little story about inclusion and how it's impacted my own family. But while you listen to my story, what I'd like you to do is in the chat feature, just give us some words or sentences that you associate when you think about inclusion yourself. What does it mean to you? Now, I'm going to model one of the approaches that SpecialQuest uses as we talk about this slide. And one of the things that they use are personal stories. They feel personal stories are really powerful, especially when you're talking about inclusion. So as you heard when Holly introduced me, one of my oldest child, has a disability. He's now 27 years old, but my search for him to be included began very early in his life. And you know, the fact that this inclusion thing might not be as easy as I thought was really brought home to me when I needed to return to work, and he was about 3 years old. I'd been working part-time around my husband's schedule, but I needed to work full-time. So I began searching for childcare. And like any mom, I wanted to find somewhere where my child would really fit in and have a lot of fun. So I interviewed a lot of home and center-based child care settings. Very often they were really welcoming until they found out my son used a wheelchair and had some other support needs. So I got a lot of responses kind of like, well, he can come here, but it may not be the best fit for him. And you know, of course that turned me off. I was looking for somewhere that he would be welcome, not just tolerated. So finally I interviewed a licensed home child care provider in my neighborhood who seemed really open to the idea of having a child with a disability in her care. Of course, when I got there to talk with her, the first thing I saw when I walked in the door was stairs. So I had a child in a wheelchair. She had stairs, but we decided we would figure it out. She was great. She said, I've never had a child who uses a wheelchair in my care before, but I've had plenty of kids. In fact, every kid I have needs some sort of special attention. I'd like to have them here, so let's just do it and figure things out as we go. So that's what we did. Sometimes it took a lot of creativity on her part, and it also took some formal support. But it worked, and it really worked beautifully. My son was truly just one of the kids. The reason I'm so sold on this kind of inclusive opportunity and inclusive community opportunities is that I really feel like his life changed for the better the minute he walked in the door or wheeled in the door of that child care home. He made so many friends that are still his friends now. When he turned 21 and he wanted to, get the heck out of Dodge and move out of the house with the parents, who did he move out with? His best friend that he met at daycare when they were just little tiny kids. So the experience, I feel, really set the stage for the rich life of community and social involvement that he has. He never thinks he doesn't belong anywhere. He just figures he and his friends are going to figure out how to make it work, and they really do. So I don't want you to think that this is, it's a great story, but it isn't an easy story. The inclusion didn't happen for him because he was an easy kid to include or because his child care provider was some kind of saint. It happened because we wanted it to happen, and we worked together to make sure that it would happen. So I see that some of you are sharing while I've been talking. That's great. So I see a lot of the things in acceptance, absolutely. Reality, inclusion is reality. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so true. It means that children will be valued by society. Everybody belongs. Access, participation, and support, which clearly is talked about in the materials that you read. Using all the resources to promote human development to the greatest capacity. Inclusion does not just mean placement. It means providing children with disabilities with opportunities and meaningful inclusion. Having activities along with all the children in the classroom. Meaningful is in here a lot, for sure. Adaptation, collaboration, appropriate challenges, can-do attitudes, full members of groups or situations, meaningful engagement. Boy, you guys are on a roll. The whole child, including social emotional skills, very good. Asking the question, what would you want? I love that. That's great. What do you want to see for your child? Sometimes I think we kind of get stuck in what we want to see and forget to ask the parents what they want. It's good for everybody. It creates friendships. It takes creativity. Once again, belonging, embracing, individualization, uniqueness. Courageous, true. Inclusion, sometimes you have to be courageous. You have to take that step into the unknown that you may not feel very easy with. It's developmentally appropriate. Their visions are shared. And then, of course, inclusion creates valued members of school communities with supports and services to be successful. Oh, you guys are great. We're getting a lot of great feedback, Holly. Isn't it wonderful?
Thank you so much. I'm reading through them too, Laura.
Yeah. So I loved all these quotes, and we're going to explore all of this about inclusion and the skills that it takes to promote inclusive communities and settings as we move forward into the webinar. So I just want to share with you a couple additional quotes on inclusion. So take a minute to look through these. When we were first developing this webinar, Holly and I, we did a lot of research to see what is out there about inclusion, and we found these quotes that we really liked. So we've included them in the webinar. So please take a minute to read through those. And I think that they really reflect many of the words and phrases that you shared with us in the What Does Inclusion Mean to You activity. You guys reflected this in a very real way. And this, to me, there's no such thing as inclusion. There's simply real life. Somebody actually said that on the feedback, and it's so true. Okay? And then on the next slide, we're going to share with you one more quote. And it comes from an educator in the field of early childhood education, not necessarily special education, but it's such a great quote. I want to wrap up with this. So if you could just have a look at what Dr. Joseph Putner has to say about inclusion. So as you can see, from your feedback and the quotes that we have here from parents and professionals, inclusion is really viewed in a lot of different ways. Sometimes I think inclusion is thought about as location specific, such as inclusion in school or inclusion in child care or early learning environments. But you know, it's really about all of those things and much more. The way children live and grow is through their participation in rich, diverse interactions with lots of different kinds of people. And so if we limit those interactions because of their differences, we limit their growth and we confine their curiosity, which is, of course, how we all learn. Okay. So let's talk we're going to do one more activity now, and we're going to actually think about challenges. And I love this clip art here of this giant rock. Definitely a challenge. So we hope that some challenges aren't all giant rocks, but we want you to think about now and share back in the chat what you think some of the challenges of promoting inclusion, and you can think about your own programs, you can think about your own community, you can think about anything that you've run into in your own experience with trying to include all children in your setting. So if you could just share those in the chat room, and then I'll verbally share those with you. And what we're going to do is we're going to be referring back to these as we move on through the training. So as Holly is showing you what some of these are, she's going to be showing you the resources within the SpecialQuest materials that might support our overcoming some of these fears. So some of the things people are saying here are the need for additional training, facilities that promote inclusion. You can be dealing with fear and ignorance, personnel preparation and support, that teachers may not be qualified or ready for inclusion. There's a lack of experience on the part of parents, both parents of children with special needs and parents of typically developing children, as well as the support staff, the teachers and the administrators. Old habits die hard, exactly. We've gotten into a habit of segregation. That's really true. There might be an attitude that is a barrier to inclusion. Lack of funding or resources. Training teachers can sometimes be difficult. We want everyone to have confidence and competence when they're working with all children. A lack of tolerance and resources to support challenges. There may be really high adult-child ratios. High child-adult ratios, I guess that is. How do you promote it in a traditional Montessori classroom? Some specifics around that. And teachers also often say they feel they aren't qualified to include children with challenges in their classroom. And then we have some reflection here about the fact that some of the attitude that might be a barrier comes from the top. That if directors or principals don't feel that children with differences belong in their classrooms, then they're not going to provide the support to the individual classroom staff to make that happen. It's a mindset change, absolutely, to think about what it takes to be inclusive. And I'm reflecting back to some of the comments that you shared earlier about the fact that, you know, inclusion is just really how it is. Life is inclusion. Okay. Those are some really wonderful feedback. As Holly said, we will try and compile this and get this out to you because you can't see the chat. I realize that you'd like to see what everyone's saying. And then, of course, it's about equal access. You guys could go on, but what I want to do is as we move on in exploring some of the materials here, we're going to reflect back to some of the challenges that you've referenced and how the SpecialQuest approach and materials can help you with some of those challenges. The next slide we're going to go to is a poll. And one of the great things about the ReadyTalk system is you can actually have interactive live polls here. So if you look here, you're going to actually vote. So you're going to submit your familiarity with the SpecialQuest approach and materials. You're going to choose one of these four, and you're going to hit submit, and then you're going to see on your screen the results.
I'm just a little bit, yeah.
Does everyone see that? We've got just about everyone who's weighing in.
Oh, wow. So a lot of people have heard a little bit.
Yep.
Only a couple people say, special what?
That's good.
Looks like we've got about 35 responses. I know there's 42 of you online. Give you a little chance to type in. Maybe you've got your salad in your hand.
Okay, good. It looks like most people on the call have some level of familiarity with the SpecialQuest approach and materials, and if they've reviewed them for their homework. Some of you are new to it, and that's okay. By the end of the webinar, you'll know how to find out a lot of great materials, and you'll be very familiar with the approach and materials. Okay, so we're going to look really briefly now at more information about SpecialQuest. And this slide shares with you the vision of SpecialQuest Birth to 5. So it's all about significant disabilities and inclusion of children with significant disabilities in high-quality early care and learning environments. It's about working together, families, communities, and leadership teams to promote and sustain the vision by using the SpecialQuest approach and materials. And it's about using those the SpecialQuest approach and materials in effective professional development systems, because it has to be interwoven within the professional development systems in order to be sustainable. So we're going to talk about that more as we move through the webinar. Now, the next slide you're going to see here should look familiar to you, because it's exactly the page that you looked at in some of your homework materials. So we're actually going to look at the weaving graphic here that talks about the values and design of the SpecialQuest approach and how it works together to build this strong framework of inclusion for children with disabilities. You can see that one of the things that you'll hear referenced a lot when we talk about SpecialQuest is the head, heart, and hands. And that means that the head part is research-based, specific strategies. The heart is what touches us emotionally, and that's a lot of where the sharing of stories comes in. And as you look through the SpecialQuest materials, you'll see that the stories and the videos of the stories of children that are experiencing inclusive environments are very powerful and very much a part of every single section of the SpecialQuest materials. And then, of course, the hands, which is how we team together to continuously promote inclusive options for children and inclusive practices in our settings and communities. There's also a huge part of continuing teaming. In other words, we don't do this just once. We keep going on and on to continue to build our system and support each other to support children with special needs in inclusive communities. And then coaching, meaning that we keep checking in. We keep checking in to see how things are working and if we need to be doing things differently, if we could be doing things better. So right now, if you could take a minute on the chat to just share with, if there's something specific, most of you said you had some familiarity with SpecialQuest. So if you could share right now what some of the specific things you're familiar with in the chat feature, that would be great. Some of you have gone to the SpecialQuest website. Dee said she's gone to the website. Stacy said she's looked at the videos, and so has Joyce. I love those videos. Lisa says there's lots of them, which is great. Amanda's gone through the homework materials. William's checked out the websites. Terry talks about how comprehensive it is. Evelyn has used the DVDs in trainings for specific areas. And Lori has gone to the website and watched the videos, as well as Barbara. Yeah, lots of people have looked at those videos. I use them myself often when I'm trying to develop a training on a specific topic. One of the first places I go is look to the SpecialQuest website to see if they have activities, videos, entire modules that I can use. And I've always found something every single time I've looked. And then Cheryl, of course, reminds us that it's diverse, that it really is representative of diverse types of communities and diverse types of families. And Lisa refers to the fact that it's very deep and broad and very useful, potentially, in many different arenas. Thank you very much for all your sharing around your personal experiences with inclusion. And I'm going to turn it over right now to Holly so she can give us a little background on the history of SpecialQuest.
Thanks, Laura. So sometimes to figure out where you're going, you have to figure out where you've been, right? So I just want to give you a little bit of the perspective of this history of SpecialQuest. So for 10 years, beginning in 1997, early Head Start programs across the country put together teams of people from their programs, from the community, to work together for 4 years to promote inclusive practices. Teams attend week-long interactive conferences together annually to learn about the approach and best practices and materials and curriculum. And each team developed goals and activities for their individual community. They had learning coaches that were assigned to them, mentors to support and keep programs moving on their plans, and over 500 early Head Start programs participated in this initial launch. Wouldn't it be nice to have all of those supports and services at your fingertips, the learning coach and the mentor? But we're going to talk a little bit about the data from those early Head Start communities in a little bit. So here's a quote from one of those programs. This person said, "SpecialQuest has given my program a blueprint for implementing responsive services for children and families. We've expanded from looking at training direct staff to looking at the program itself. This is an approach that really makes an impact on our state," which is very, very exciting. So instead of looking at as individuals, they were looking at sustainability of systems and programs. And that's what the approach and materials did for them. We'll get into a little bit about the data of those programs right now. So what does the data tell us about the effectiveness of SpecialQuest approach? I know all of you are research and evidence-based savvy professionals and trainers and coaches and teachers and administrators. So you're not going to pick up a single curriculum or an approach without saying, all right, how has this worked for people in the past and what are the outcomes of this approach? So the next couple slides I'm going to share with you are on the efficacy and the data that we have on the implementation of SpecialQuest. So let's just take a few minutes to review what the data has told us. I'm not going to go into great detail in the next few slides. The big takeaway from these slides is that programs who implemented the SpecialQuest approach and materials found statistically significant different increases in their inclusive practices over a number of indicators, okay? So one of these indicators was enrolling children. So what this graph tells you is from year one to year 4, most of these are across these 4 indicators went up from having partially implemented, which is in the blue, to at the end of 4 years they had fully implemented in their program making adaptations, their program using targeted strategies, etc. And so the same here. And these, from year 1 to year 4, these programs noted that skills in working with infants and toddlers with disabilities and their families had improved. So you can see again from not at all have improved to at least a lot of them said that they had improved much from years 1 to years 4. Same thing with the indicator of implementing inclusive practices, or increasing in skills. And then here is that self-efficacy piece that's so important. You can see that many of them from year 1 to year 4 found that they had statistically significant increases from year 1 to year 4 in their comfort level. And what research tells us is a lot of times our self-efficacy, our belief in our abilities to do things, and those attitudes and perceptions like y'all mentioned earlier, are huge indicators of successful implementation of practices. And finally, the last indicator was increased integrated service delivery. So from years 1 to years 4, you can see that many of them across these 4 indicators in integrated service delivery went from having partially implemented to fully implemented integrated service delivery. So how exciting is that data? Now, if you're really interested in all of this data, you can find a full report on the SpecialQuest website, which we're going to give you later, under the evaluation link. Okay, I know some of you could have a whole webinar on data. So our next slide, we're going to do a little poll again. Just before we jump into the SpecialQuest materials, we want to ask you to participate in this poll and tell us which video did you view as a part of your pre-webinar homework. Now, one of them was on the preschool inclusion series, working together to make it happen, and the other video was on creating bright futures. So if you could just take the time right now to tell us which video you watched. Okay, it looks like a lot of you watched the preschool inclusion series, which is brand new material from SpecialQuest this year. They had such a high demand that they came out with a specific inclusion series just for preschool audiences. Okay, I've got 25 of you responding, but 39 on. Okay, Diane, I'm sorry you had a difficult time accessing. One of the things about the videos is you did have to have a QuickTime viewer, so I want to make sure you have that downloaded. Hopefully, if you didn't get a chance to view the videos, you'll have a chance to watch them later. And Barbara Jackman has her hand raised, so Barbara, did you want to ask a question about the videos? You can share it on your chat feature. Okay, I'll look for your question later, Barbara.
Holly, it's Barbara. I'm
okay,
sorry.
Hey.
And I would just show up to Josh White. But I'm unable to chat. Nothing happens when I try to get in there. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe you can chat with Josh and he can help you figure that out. I'm sorry about that, Barbara.
All right, bye.
Thanks for letting us know. Okay, thanks for that little brief interruption, everybody. And I appreciate Barbara participating, trying to participate at least that way. All right, so thank you for participating in that poll. It looks like a lot of you watch the preschool inclusion, and the videos are just one example of the awesome materials you're going to interact with. Looks like a fair amount of you got to do the homework, but of course, if you had some difficult time accessing, you can go back and access the videos later. We'd be happy to help you work through any glitches that you might have experienced. Each video, I just wanted to let you know, comes with a guided discussion for facilitators to have in your training. So every time you show one of these videos in your training, you don't have to ask the generic question, what did you think about the video? You've got a guided discussion handout in your trainer facilitator packet. Now we're going to give you a little information regarding the makeup of the materials. They're organized by themes, including infants and toddlers, building relationships with families, collaboration and teaming, and preschool inclusion series. Now I just want to provide a little disclaimer that including infants and toddlers, although these sessions say they're birth through 3, you will see birth through adulthood inclusion in these videos. So they are easily adaptable for the birth through 8 audience. So don't let that be an obstacle for you for using these sessions, because they're absolutely adaptable for birth through 8. All right, the Including Young Children with Disabilities volume is just an excellent volume rooted in the key concept of belonging. These sessions examine the beliefs and attitudes that influence and affect adults and children in inclusive settings, and provide numerous practical strategies and tools to help families and providers implement high-quality inclusive settings. This is part of a 4-volume curriculum, and I just wanted to let you know the library is perfect for early childhood educators, families, child care providers, inclusion specialists, early interventionists, special educators, college and university professors. They have been used nationwide by over 5,000 participants, and the library includes 22 award-winning videos, and they're in English and Spanish. With, as I mentioned, the facilitator's guide, training scripts, handouts are also in English and Spanish. Okay, moving on to the next volume. And this volume is all about families, building relationships with families and parents. And it's rooted key concept that the fact that families are the enduring presence in the lives of young children with disabilities. This volume contains activities to support early care and education staff and families in developing those positive relationships that support collaboration and family leadership. And the next volume is on collaboration and teaming. Inclusion, it's rooted in the key concept that inclusion depends on a team of family members and service providers who have that collective responsibility for coordinating services to young children with families with disabilities and their families. This makes teaming a vital part of the process, this volume. The session in the volume provides a comprehensive set of strategies and activities that support high-quality collaboration and teaming. So it's all the best research and practice on collaboration and teaming in one volume around inclusion. And finally, the latest and greatest from SpecialQuest is the Preschool Inclusion Series. And this is all about what the public asked for. They wanted work on the definition of inclusion and how to talk about it in a preschool settings, and on the IEP and how do you conduct a successful IEP, and what are the components of a successful IEP. So you'll find a lot of great material in the Preschool Inclusion Series that you found in the other volumes, but with a real strong emphasis on the preschool setting. All right, so earlier we asked you in the webinar to identify what you thought would be challenges in practicing inclusion, and we got a boatload of identified obstacles and challenges. So now we're going to take some time to dive into the library to see how some of the session materials can help support the specific topics you brought up early in the webinar. So I'm just going to let you know that I am going to be sharing my desktop now. So you're going to see your screen change, and you're going to see that you should be seeing the SpecialQuest Birth Through 5 website. Now, I can't see any of your chat right now, so if you're chatting, Laura's going to manage that. But I'm just going to take you straight through to share with you some of the resources. This is the SpecialQuest archive site, and you can enter through the training library, the impact, you can enter through impact, or you can enter through the archive site. We're entered through the archive site right now, but you could in the future enter just through the library if you want to use the materials. So I'm going to enter the site right here, and you're going to see on your right-hand side all of the great resources that the SpecialQuest website offers on top of the multimedia training library. Everything from the communications kit, which is basic one-pagers on the approach and materials. One of these was the benefits to the SpecialQuest approach and materials that you looked at earlier. So there's a one-pager on that. and the resource bank, where you can find all kinds of information and search the resource bank for information on faculty resources, coordinating services, sustainability, transition. You can find all kinds of resources there on the resource bank. And then you can review discussions that have happened and participate in. I don't think that you can participate in discussions any longer, but you can also like SpecialQuest on Facebook if you have a Facebook account. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into the training library because I know our time is cutting short. But here you should see the library, and you can search volumes, sessions, videos, supplements, or the preschool. So we're going to take just a couple of your key challenges that you identified, and we're going to see what kind of sessions speak to those. So one of the reoccurring themes that I saw was, let's see, comfort and confidence.
Yes, that's a big one.
Laura, did you want to say something?
Yeah, that was the one I was going to pick also.
Okay,
Laura, a lot of people
we'll start with that one, and Laura, maybe you can give me another one.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at all the sessions that would specifically support your training or your staff with enhancing their comfort and confidence in providing inclusive settings. So you should see your screen changing right here. And what you've got here are your session search results. So here are the sessions right here that deal with it, and then you'll see which volume that session is a part of at the bottom. So let's click on When Concerns Arise, Learning from Family Experience. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, you've got the title, the description, the outcomes, and the additional uses for this session. And you've also got your full facilitator's guide, your planning worksheet, which is awesome, by the way, if you're co-presenting, which is one of the core elements of the SpecialQuest approach. So let's just take a look at what one of those looks like. As this loads. So look at this fantastic planning guide for your training. You've got the whole outline of what the training is going to be about, and then you can fill in names for who's going to facilitate that section. You've got all of your materials that you'll need. And one thing I wanted to let you know, a lot of people ask, well, where are the PowerPoints? Well, one thing that we know is once you create a PowerPoint for a curriculum or approach, it's outdated that very next day. So we don't want you to think that you're prohibited from developing PowerPoints to supplement this, to supplement the information, but we won't provide PowerPoints. There aren't any provided PowerPoints for the SpecialQuest sessions, but doesn't mean you can't create your own. So
I think that, Holly, this is Laura.
Learning outcomes. You've got your guided viewing for the video that's in this session, which is Embrace the Possibilities. And again, they're in English and Spanish. And because time is a little bit prohibitive, we're not going to be able to go through a lot of the topics, but I saw a lot of you talked about perceptions. Here's a guided viewing for the video, so you've got specific questions to ask after you've watched the video. A lot of you talked about perceptions, which I want to highlight in the volume, Creating Bright Futures. And really it gets at that philosophical and attitudinal belief change. Here are some descriptions of the volumes in detail. And again, you can search by volume, through sessions, through videos, and through supplements. So it's pretty easy to maneuver around any of these keyword topics. All right. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Laura. We could spend a whole day just going through those great materials, couldn't we, and searching by keyword, but we've got 15 minutes left in the webinar and a little bit more to cover. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who's going to summarize.
So I hope that all of you, I know I was getting dizzy just watching that, but I really want to encourage you to explore the depth of the SpecialQuest library and the SpecialQuest materials. You know, when Holly said that there aren't PowerPoints provided for each section, that's because as you begin to explore the materials, I think you're really going to see how you can develop a presentation that addresses a specific need in your community, and then you're going to use the SpecialQuest session materials to support that within the training. It just really enriches the trainings rather than just getting up there and developing something that you're going to lecture about, you can find, I have been very successful in always finding SpecialQuest materials that support whatever presentation I need to give to the community. So please use the materials in that way. Also, one thing Holly referenced briefly is as different states are using the SpecialQuest materials and developing presentations or enhancing those materials, we download those on the resource bank on the SpecialQuest website. So you can actually explore there a little bit and look at how other states are using the materials. And you know, everybody is, this one thing about SpecialQuest is it's really an open community that shares resources among everyone that wants to access them. So please just explore those a little bit more. And then we are going to, in the next slide, use another of our most wonderful polls. So we want to take, we took a snapshot of your familiarity with the SpecialQuest materials at the beginning of the webinar. Now we want you to rate your familiarity now that we've had a chance to go through them a little bit more. We usually have, we like to have more time to really explore them so we don't have to go through them quite so quickly. But if you could just take the poll real quickly and say, we hope that you still aren't answering what is SpecialQuest, never heard of it, but if you could give us an idea of how this webinar has enhanced your understanding of the SpecialQuest approach and materials.
Looks like we've got a lot of people that are ready to explore the library more. I don't blame you from that 2-second glance. Okay, I can fit it on a postage stamp. That's better than before. A couple people are ready to use them.
Great. I see a trend.
Me too, Laura.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. It looks like everyone has a great deal of enthusiasm for using the library, and also it looks like a lot of you are ready to kind of explain it to others, which is certainly a focus of ours, because one of the things SpecialQuest talks about is moving this outward. So not just keeping these great materials and the use of the approach within your specific community, but supporting others to move it outward so that the knowledge and use of the approach and materials can continue to grow as we are better at utilizing those to support inclusion within our sites and within our community.
And Laura, also just wanted to say that, you know, this is just a little glimpse, but you're going to get a lot more in-depth understanding of the approach of SpecialQuest as well as the materials. I know a lot of times we're familiar with just the materials of something, like we have the pyramid model materials, we have the building blocks materials. Well, SpecialQuest is a little unique in that it says, not only do we want to give you the car, or the gasoline, the fuel to train, but we want to give you the car too to put the gasoline in. So we want to give you the approach to support how you deliver the materials. And that's kind of the analogy that's always stuck in my head, is that the SpecialQuest approach is the car that we use to drive, and the gasoline is the materials that we plug in to promote inclusive practices. I don't know if that rings well with everybody or not, but it works for me.
Okay, sorry, I'm responding to someone's chat here. Okay, all righty, great. Thank you for that clarification, because I do think that it's important to know that it is much more than the materials. Let's move on, and one thing that we always do within the SpecialQuest approach is to talk about continuous improvement. So right now, we'd like your feedback on how you might be able to use the SpecialQuest and materials back home. And if you could just respond to that, just after going through this, what do you think? What kind of possibilities do you see? And reply to those in the chat, and then we'll share those with the other participants. Also, if you have feedback on what worked particularly well for the webinar, we'd love to hear that. And if there's things that were difficult, we know that some people had difficulty accessing the chat.
Yeah, so if you wanted to press, Laura, if they wanted to press *7 now to unmute themselves.
Oh, that'd be great.
You can do that too if you want to share.
So you can share by chat, or
do you think you're going to use the materials back home?
Hi, this is Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Jerry. Hey, I don't know why I can't chat, but anyhow, I was before. But anyhow, I am teaching ECE 260 next semester, and this is
great
for the class for certain competencies that we want to cover in that class.
Wonderful.
Great. That's wonderful. And I know that some others that are planning on teaching that class are thinking of that as well. I think they're being used more and more within the context of different higher education personnel development classes and initiatives. And then we're getting some feedback about people that want to explore the resources more. Evelyn is going to use it to meet the individual needs of the different teams that she works with. More references to the EQ, the OUNCE, and pre-licensing, and using the materials and approach within those. Community college and training, uses in community college classes and training. Terry's not sure yet, but she's going to explore and figure it out. Barbara's going to use them to help educate the people in the sessions and bring them up to date on inclusion and inclusive techniques. Jeff has referenced using them to help families have a vision of what they might be able to expect really early on, and to assist in transitioning into other inclusive environments. I love that. That's a great use of the approach and materials. To build supportive attitudes, and I think that's really important to have everyone on board in the program that's really gung-ho and ready to promote inclusion. I know that I went through the preschool inclusion series and looked at the videos and materials in preparation for this webinar as well. And that really impressed me, was how everyone in the classroom working with the young children were very, very supportive of inclusion. I didn't see any holdouts, so to speak. Use the materials within parent trainings. Thanks, Brandy. I know you do a lot of parent training. Oh, Lori's talking about giving the information to the preschool teachers so that they can access the website and use materials. Great. Lisa talks about using that the webinar helped her see what can really be done in an online real-time learning format. And I think we're all learning more about that and needing to use that more often as we are finding that things change quickly. There's things we want to let people know about quickly, and using an on-site training is not always the way to do that. Using them for problem solving, using them to keep current on best practice, working with district early childhood programs, including SpecialQuest within the pyramid model, absolutely. And you'll be learning a lot
more about that.
A lot more about that in the next, when is it, in 2 weeks?
Yes.
In 2 weeks. And training new special education teachers and using them with school administration. Those are all wonderful ideas. So I can see that you guys are getting really enthusiastic about how you can take the approach and materials back to your communities and use them. And so that makes us feel enthusiastic as well. All right, thank you everyone. Any last conversations for those of you that might have unmuted? Okay. All right, the next slide is just a resource slide. It's going to show you some areas that you can go to get more information about inclusion. So we've listed those for you. There's lots of great stuff out there. So we've covered the SpecialQuest Approach Materials website. We looked at the library really quickly. We talked about how to make the material and approach efficient and effective. So are there any other questions right now regarding SpecialQuest? And then we're going to have another slide that is giving you some a further exploration that you need to do to prepare for the building blocks presentation at the conference.
So do we have any questions?
Are there any questions?
We covered a lot today, and we just want to make sure that we answer your questions. I know that we had Terry who was unsure how she would use the material. So Terry, did you have any questions you wanted to press *7 and ask? I'm sure if you have it, then maybe some others might as well. Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah, really.
And continue to, I know we just always wanted to practice SpecialQuest continuous improvement. It's a part of values and design elements of the approach. So if you want to chat, just enter in what worked well about today's webinar for you and maybe suggestions for improvement if we provide this webinar again. So Brandy's asking, can we get a copy of the PowerPoint for the quotes and other references? Absolutely. It's going to be posted on the Pyramid Plus website under the past webinars and trainings. And Lori's asking, is there a way to get a copy of the website list? Well, yes, it'll be archived on the Pyramid Plus website, so you can get I'll just open it up real quick and maybe let you look at some. But it will be archived. Laura, do you see any more questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, so the challenge was the slow download speed when scrolling through the website. Need to go slower. Thanks, Lisa, for that feedback.
Yeah, you know, and I had thought, I'm sure I would have noticed that had I been at home on my really old computer, so we need to be careful about that. So thanks for that reminder.
Okay, you're welcome. Joyce says, thanks for grounding me on what to expect at the conference. It made me excited to get there. Can we add this to the website resource list on the Pyramid Plus website? Absolutely, Johanna. You probably have most of them there.
Yep. Okay, well, Joanna or Kelly, would you like to talk a little bit about this next slide, unmute your phone, and tell us about the pre-conference prep for building blocks?
Hi, this is Johanna.
Hi, Johanna.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
You guys are doing a fantastic job. It's awesome. So exciting. I did want to just let everyone know that there's some pre-conference prep work to do, but it's not too much work. It's just really going to the website, the Building Blocks website, which is listed. And then you'll see right on the left-hand side when you go onto their main website, there's a link for a 15-minute in-service. And so Susan Sandall had asked if we could just let everyone know to view that 15-minute in-service. It'll give you a little bit of a head start on what to expect when you get the building block information. And then one of the other suggestions that we're recommending those who attended the Summer Institute is to bring your Summer Institute binders because there'll be quite a few handouts at this conference, and we'll be sure to have them 3-hole punched, all the handouts, so you can just place them right into your binders if that would be easier for you. We'll also be providing folders too, so just for those who like all their handouts in one location, that would be an option for you. And that's it.
Thanks, Joanna.
You're welcome.
All righty, let's move on. Holly, you want to just give the last wrap-up here?
Sure. Just want to thank you all. The time is 12:59, so I know we had to rush through the website really quickly, but I know that you can go back to that SpecialQuest.org website and click on the training library, and just feel free to go at your own pace and check out the sessions. Each session is between 2 and from 1.5 hours. Some of them are 3 hours, and everything is really done for you. I just want you to know that all it takes is for you to come to the materials to bring your willingness and energy and excitement, and that's really all it takes. The best practices are laid out, ready for you to share with your audiences. We just wanted to share a couple of the websites at SpecialQuest.org. You saw the 3 ways you can enter. You can look at the impact that SpecialQuest has had. You can look at the website. You can enter that way, or you can just go straight to the training library. And we have an exciting little gift for you at the Inclusion Institute of your own multimedia training library with all the DVDs and CDs. So you're not going to have to download anything at all. You're going to have all of them at your fingertips. We just want to let you know, I'm sure you're familiar with the Pyramid Plus website. And if you want to call Laura or myself and ask any questions that maybe you didn't feel like asking today, you can feel free to email or call us, Laura or myself. And we just really wanted to thank you for your patience and providing us continuous improvement on what could work better next time, and for your great participation throughout. So you're on mute, but give yourselves a hand. Or you can take yourself off mute and give yourself a hand. Laura, did you want to say anything else?
No, I just want to say thanks again, everyone, for participating. We love presenting these webinars. We love that everything worked well in our IT. That was great. And we just want to say a big thank you to all of you. And please keep spreading the word. Keep connecting people with the resources that you've looked at and telling people about these great resources to support inclusion in your community and your program.
And just wanted to let you know one more thing. You're going to have a little bit of homework. I know you're so excited to be students again. That's coming to you on Monday or Tuesday of next week. And it's probably just maybe 30 to 45 minutes. If you want to go slower, you can take an hour to prepare you for participation for the Inclusion Institute on the day that we have for SpecialQuest.
We do want to let you know that you'll see all of us there as well, so you can always corner us and track us down and ask us any questions at the Inclusion Institute also. All right, thanks everybody. We're going to sign off now, and thank you so much for your participation. Have a great day. See you in 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Please stand by.